But where we begin today is with the orange and the black. You heard that correctly. The Flyers trade deadline was completed earlier this afternoon, and Danny Briere made some moves. Now, Flyers fans always say there's no Flyers talk. Well. Look at what we have here. 215-592-9494. If you do want to get in to share your thoughts on the direction of the Flyers now that Briere did finally trade Scott Laughton. Truth be told, I thought Scott Laughton was going to be here forever. I'd be 63 years old. Scott Laughton's playing wing on the third line. I thought there'd be a chance there'd be the Philadelphia Scott Laughtons. That's how much they love him. But they moved him for a first-round draft pick. So, here's what the Flyers accomplished. A few weeks ago, they traded Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee to the Calgary Flames. They traded Scott Laughton to Toronto for a first, and then they flipped Kuzmenko for a third-round pick today. There's other details involved, 50% contract. They're holding some salary cap. They're taking back some salary, and there were some 4th, 6th, 7th rounders involved as well. But here's the truth on where the Flyers stand. This upcoming draft, they have 7 picks in the first 2 rounds. 3 first-round picks and 4 second-round picks. So Danny Briere loaded us up with a bunch of ammo, just like he said he would. Now they have to execute. Now it's time to put your foot on the gas and really put this franchise in a different gear. Because you have all the assets. That's a lot. Do you draft and develop? Do you trade for a younger, proven player that may need a contract and maybe a team is unwilling to pay them? Or maybe, there's just circumstances where a player is unhappy and he's willing to move to a different city, but his age still fits a reasonable timeline. Do you use those draft picks to make a trade? Do you go sign free agents? Now it's time for Danny Briere to really go on the prowl. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly who Danny Briere is, if I'm being transparent with you. It seems like he's very, 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 very patient, which could be a blessing and a curse. Sometimes I think he ends up having to do more later on because he waits so long. Like put in a 4th-round draft pick to make sure he gets a first for Scott Laughton. Howie's not really patient. Howie's always in aggressive mode. And I hate to put Danny Briere sort of on this scale of, are you as good as Howie Roseman? Because the guy's just getting started as a GM, and Howie wasn't always this good. But I'm just trying to look at what sells positively with Danny and what are still question marks with Danny. I do like from an overhead view where the Philadelphia Flyers are with all of the draft picks. That's what this was supposed to be during the rebuild. They got there. The result? 3 firsts and 4 seconds in the 2025 draft? I couldn't have dreamed for a better scenario during a rebuild. After Matvei Michkov comes here and nets 20 goals in his first campaign, and maybe he ends up being a 25-goal scorer, if not more, by the end of the season. And Travis Konechny continues, and Tyson Forster continues to grow. There's some things there. There's still a few to evaluate. Cam York might end up being a bust, so it's not perfect. But I'll tell you what. Where we are now, this is exactly where Danny Briere told us we would be. They acquired all of the picks they were trying to acquire. It's time now to put your foot on the gas and actually start excelling this thing. It's not going to happen with the snap of the fingers. But I definitely need to see a push forward. 215-592-9494. I want to hear from Flyers fans out there about how you feel with the state of the team after the trade deadline. He did what he was supposed to do today. I didn't know if Laughton would be gone. Would I have liked to see more go? Yes. Would I like to see Rasmus Ristolainen traded? Yes. Again, Danny Briere seems to be extremely patient with his moves. That may benefit us at times, and that might end up biting you in the ass at times. I'm trying to figure out if he's got the killer mentality or if he's going to be more Dave Dombrowski. So I'm analyzing his moves with the intense set of binoculars because I need to know. I'm starving to find out. I don't necessarily love every decision he makes. I don't necessarily love every path he takes, but I do like the result. He may pay a little more. It might take a little time, but he does get the result I'm looking for. So maybe those details get ironed out as he continues to grow as a GM and he learns on the job. The most important thing is you are getting the result that you're looking for. And that's big for a team that is actively trying to rebuild and get this fan base back on board. 215-592-9494. Let's go to Navy Fred, excuse me. You're on WIP. What's up, Fred?
Yo, Brodes, what's going on?
How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Hey, I got to tell you, it's good to hear you upbeat. Last night, I thought you were going to jump off a cliff, brother.
Yeah, Dave Dombrowski wasn't making me very happy. All you got to do is talk a little puck, Fred. You talk a little puck, and the smile is just outrageous.
Hey, I got to tell you, I think these trades that he made over the last day and a half, I think this finally kind of wipes the slate clean from the Chuck Fletcher era, and now you're going to see the Danny Briere, Keith Jones Flyers moving forward. You know, the fact that he was able to flip a third winger for a first-round pick is incredible. I remember a couple of years ago we couldn't get rid of JVR, and there were offers on the table from Detroit. So I think he's doing a great job.
Oh, no! Don't remind me of that crap. You're right. We couldn't even trade a JVR who had some value in the league at that time. That's a good point.
He did. And you're right. Danny's taking his time. He's being patient. He's not making drastic moves. He's making the smart moves to set the organization up. Now, you said last night it's probably going to be 2030 until we see the results, but we're going to start seeing the results here in the next couple of years, and it's finally good to get out of Chuck Fletcher's shadow.
It's a good point, and they definitely used this year to evaluate, and, they figured, hey, Farabee's just not living up to the expectations. Same with Morgan Frost, so you got to move them out of town, and then that opens up some cap flexibility down the road because you don't have to worry about them on your books. And then, this Scott Laughton thing, it took a little longer than I would have liked. I think maybe he could have done this previously, and then that contract retaining that he had to deal with this year, maybe that could have been applied to Rasmus Ristolainen. So sometimes I do feel his patience does have a domino effect on where we stand today. But look, you're not just going to walk in as a GM and knock everything out of the park within seconds. Howie Roseman was not just this version of Howie day one in the NovaCare complex. So we are off to a pretty respectful start from Danny Briere. And, you got to apply this to the next level, though, Fred. You do have to start nailing the next phase or else you turn into the Sixers. But they are setting up nicely, and that's a huge thing.
That is. Hey, man, I'll let you go. Appreciate you talking puck from the first whistle. Thanks, man.
Of course. Opening up with the show, baby. Not only are we opening up with the show, we have audio. That's right. We're going to play audio from the general manager, Danny Briere, just so I can give you a little bit of his mindset, so you can understand a little bit of his philosophy. We'll play that in a moment. Let's go to JP in Chestnut Hill. Yo, JP.
Yo, what's going on, bros?
What's up, man?
I'm doing well. I really was a big fan of this trade deadline. But, as a fan, I'm still kind of worried about, how are they going to go about acquiring these top pieces that we see other cup contenders have? Where are we going to get our version of the Barkovs, the we have our Kucherov and Matvei Michkov, but we don't have, Steven Stamkos or Andrei Vasilevsky or Victor Hedman. I'm still a bit worried about where that's all going to come from.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I guess the answer will be the draft, right? I mean, if you found Matvei Michkov in the draft, then when you have all these assets, 3 firsts, 4 seconds. I mean, you got to do your due diligence. You got to trust your scouting staff, and you got to apply that knowledge to the draft to find these Kucherovs. Or, maybe in free agency. I know Danny Briere recently spoke after the Calgary trade and mentioned the door is now open if there is a right player out there to pounce with where the checkbook is right now for the Flyers. So it's probably going to be a combination of drafting and developing, free agents, and maybe you use some of these first-round picks for trade assets to go get some proven talent now. And with those 3 opportunities, that's where we have to go find them.
And this, I think the only free agent coming up now that Rantanen just got signed of like the caliber of those players might be like a Mitch Marner, but then he disappears in the playoffs. Is that really what we want?
That's where things get sticky, JP, because if you think about it, we're also having this same conversation with Pettersson up in Vancouver. It's like, here's a center. Everybody wants to find a 1C, which is fair. Every organization does. And then there's someone who's, and Mitch Marner, I think, is way better than Pettersson, but I'm just using that as an example of when you see these names and you get excited and then you realize, well, have they really been living up to the expectation? And then it puts some worry into your mind. That's why Danny Briere gets paid the big bucks. He's the one who's going to have to make that tough decision.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we have no choice but to have faith in him. If he makes the only way I see this draft as a total failure is if he makes all 7 picks in the first 2 rounds, I would be quite disappointed.
You would be, okay, and thank you, JP. I appreciate it. I don't know if I would be. I think that would almost intrigue me. Now, do I think they're going to draft that many? No, I don't. But if they come out of this year's draft with a boatload of players and prospects to be excited about, I think that's a good spot for this fan base to be because, you got Mitchkov, which is great, but you do need some more blood in the water, if that is even a thing. I could just be making up phrases. But you need to have those guys where I need to see him in the orange and black. I need to see him. We had it in Cutter Gauthier. Unfortunately, he flipped us the double bird. So, you got to make do with what you have, and you got Jamie Drysdale, who, over the last week, I actually saw a couple of plays from Jamie Drysdale that blew me away. And I went, whoa, that's the best Jamie Drysdale I've seen since he's put on a sweater that has a Flyers logo on it. So maybe he's getting comfortable. Maybe he's feeling himself again and getting settled. I'm not sure. But I wouldn't be that disappointed in it. Now, maybe they use some of those fours to get back into the first round. They have 4 first-round picks. I don't know what they do. And I would be cool with that as well. But the more the merrier right now. You want to have darts and throw some darts at the dartboard high up in the draft with 7 picks in the first 2 rounds. Let's have some fun, baby. We need some excitement with this team, and I think that would be a good way to have some fun and excitement. All right, we're going to continue taking your calls. Let's hear from Danny Briere. So, this was Danny Briere on why the Toronto Maple Leafs pick that came in the Laughton trade, why it was a 2027 first-round pick.
It was preferable, at some point, too, because there's no guarantee that first-round pick we will be picking. At some point, we hope to be one of those teams on the other side of the fence that are looking to acquire players. Like you mentioned, having 3 already this year, still our own next year. We felt, for us, that wasn't a problem to push it out that way. Those first round picks you saw today, you see at on draft day, they're so valuable. It to me doesn't really matter. Even if it's pushed out a year or 2, they're still very valuable and a huge asset to have moving forward. So, we're excited to be able to move it out a little bit.
Now, if that doesn't sound like a hockey GM, I don't know what does. I've been doing this for a long time. We play Howie. We play Nick. You listen to Rob Thompson and some of the players. That just sounded like a Flyers general manager. But I love it. I mean, listen, it shows you the mindset. It does. Hey, we may now have assets down the road, too. It's not just about this second, but what happens when we get good? And instead of picking a high draft pick in a couple of years, we can use that for trade bait. We can use that to go get someone to help us. We can go get talent who's ready to compete now. So you got a mix of both. I got to say, it's a pretty intelligent strategy from this front office. Build now, have some now, ready to rock 2025 draft, but we're not going to not value what can be done in 2027. If we can get first rounders are first rounders. Let's pile these puppies up. I love it. Let's go to Mike in Prospect Park. Yo, Mike.
What's up, bro?
What's up?
Dude, I've been a Flyers fan since I was born in 1970. 1980s was my time, where they were exciting, like crazy, like we used to open our windows up and when they would score a goal, the neighbors heard it. It was nuts. But how their hockey, Flyers hockey right now is boring.
Sure, they're not good.
Right.
Yeah.
But let's get, dude, I remember the day of, and I didn't even know this happened. I went and got a Flyers tattoo on my calf.
I love that.
And they got Lindros. Didn't even know it.
Well, how about you get a tattoo again tomorrow, and then maybe we sign, one of the next best generational players.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Whose are they? You got Michkov in there. Mm-hmm. Okay? We got Michkov. I'm not going to blame Tortorella. Tortorella has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, no, this is front office stuff before anybody came.
It's the people around him. He doesn't have a supporting cast.
Yeah, but we got new people. The reason why the Flyers are in the predicament that they're in now isn't a Briere or Jonesy problem or a Tortorella problem. This all stems from Hextall and Chuck Fletcher.
Right.
Yeah.
It was prior. So they screwed it up. Now it's time to rebuild. But now it's who's the next? I want to know. I'm curious to see, and I follow hockey. I'm a lifelong Flyers fan. Who's the next guy that they can possibly get, whether it be a free agent, whether it be somebody, an impact player that can build on this?
It'll be the same thing that we got with Michkov. Is nobody knew of Matvei Michkov until they ended up selecting him. And I mean, the deep hockey people knew about what he was able to do in Russia and whatnot. But for us as Flyers fans and us for this city, it's one of those things where nobody knows the 18-year-old kids who's playing junior hockey in the Ontario Hockey League right now. So we'll learn about them as they draft them.
So, in your opinion, spot a player. Do we need a goalie?
Well, of course
we do. Okay, so we got to sign a goalie.
We need a goalie. We need and thank you, Mike. The Flyers need a goalie, if not two. The Flyers need a number one center. The Flyers need a number one defenseman. The Flyers need 3 top 6 forwards, if not 4. They need 4 more defense. They need everything. I mean, I'm trying to make a joke here. My joke sucks. They need everything. But the number one targets is they need a number one pure minute-eating defenseman who logs high 20-plus minutes a night and shuts teams down. Shuts down number one lines or, your first line of the other team when they try and get into the defensive zone. You have good gap, right? You're breaking up passes at the blue line, which forces them to go off sides. You need a strong presence with a number one D-man, and you need a number one center. That's where it begins. But they also need multiple different top 6 forwards. They need multiple defensemen, and they need multiple goalies. So they need everything. There's no doubt about it. But this process was all about, and I hate using that word, acquiring what can get you these guys. This was step 1 of a multi-step process. But if you look at how they have acquired all of these draft picks, they've done a really good job of acquiring all of these draft picks. These are a lot. You have 3 first-round picks. Think of this. Just because I know fans can relate to the Eagles a lot more. Imagine if Howie Roseman had 3 first-round draft picks upcoming and 4 seconds. What? Seriously. We'd be having a field day. That would be insane. it doesn't change because this is hockey. That's a big deal. That's a lot. So think about what they have now after the horrible experience of dealing with Chuck Fletcher, our previous GM, and Ron Hextall. Let's go to Zach in Westmont. Yo, Zach.
Hey, what's going on?
What's up?
Hey, I love your energy, man.
Thank you.
Like you're kind of giving me anxiety a little bit, just the way that you're just yelling.
Uh-oh.
But, I do love the energy, and I love talking about the Flyers. I'm one of the fans who's a little bit more hopeful.
Okay.
Than anything. We're stacked. We're stacked up with assets, that's for sure. And one of the concerns I think that I've heard that's out there is that whether or not Briere is going to be able to see through, those assets. Whether or not he's going to get the gate before, he's able to make full use of them. It's a lot of picks. It really it's so many picks, and you made a comment about I think we're going to draft all of them.
No, I don't think they will, but it would be fun if they would.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting strategy because we're trying to develop talent in the city. We need to develop high end talent. How do you do it? We missed on Cutter Gauthier was a top 5 pick. We missed on that. We got Drysdale in return. He was a top 5 pick. But he's not a top 5 talent, unfortunately. No. Not right now.
He's not.
And, he's got a ceiling. Great ceiling. Love the ceiling, but, still haven't seen enough out of him.
Here's one that's going to sting, Zach. Cam York, you could have had Cole Caulfield, and Cam York doesn't look to be it either.
I was keeping my eyes open to see if he was going to get dealt, to be honest with you. I'm not impressed with him at all whatsoever. I think that, we need people that are going to be here. And I think that it's kind of hard sometimes to get people to come to Philadelphia right now because we're not so competitive. It's hard to just start building and be an attractive place to come play hockey if we're not playing good hockey right now. We're just not. Mitch looks great. We hit on him. But if we can't hit on our top 5 picks like we just missed on Cutter Gauthier, that was a crucial pick to miss on.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts.
It hurts. Yeah, it hurts the fan base when that shit happens. Excuse me.
I appreciate the call. The only thing I disagree with there in the beginning was if there were some talks about Danny not being able to see it through. I promise you this Flyers organization is going to give Danny Briere plenty of time to see this through. I don't think they... I don't even think it's ever even been a thought in anybody's mind that Danny Briere isn't going to get a chance to see this through after getting all of the draft picks that he acquired. You got all these draft picks, you get a chance to do what you want with these draft picks. I don't see a world where it's anything but that. All right, how about this? 215-592-9494. That was a hell of an opening segment. Truth be told, I'm an honest man. I'm an honesties man. I didn't know how the Flyers talk would go. It's different. It's different to the listening audience, but we attacked it. And we got your phone calls. And we will continue to talk about the Fly Guys. It's not all we're talking about. So if you do want to get in on some Eagles hot topics around, whether it's the drama or the Phillies in Clearwater, and I got multiple different topics that we will hit on as well throughout the program, you can chime in on anything that's happening in Philadelphia right now. But this was a big day for Flyers land, okay? It was a huge day. Scott Laughton out of town. Finally, you get a first-round pick back in return, and Danny Briere is on the prowl. So I want to get a sense of where Flyers fans are now that you see 7 picks in the first 2 rounds entering the 2025 draft. It's remarkable to think that's what they have. It's what they have. 215-592-9494. Coming up next, we will continue taking your calls on the Orange and Black. It's Brodes, it's you. It's 94 WIP. Just want to make sure the Flyers get some love because this is a big day for Danny Briere, and he did a good job. He's a new GM. We're trying to understand what he's all about. There's no track record to go off of. It's like Kevin Patullo. And I'm going to cross-reference a lot of sports today because I think that helps visualize it if maybe you're not in the trenches with the Flyers, which is okay. I'm a let's grow the sportsman. I want everybody to get in on the hockey because it's phenomenal. And there's a lot to appreciate with it. So Kevin Patullo, we don't really know what he's going to be as an offensive coordinator. We don't know what Danny Briere is going to be like yet for the Flyers. When you go through a rebuild, the first few years, it's just about sucking. There's no expectations other than go suck and get a couple draft picks and we'll see. But people screw that up sometimes too. Sometimes people even screw that up. He's done a good job to get us here. The big part comes next. This is the most important and the most crucial of them all. The Sixers screwed it up. This is where the Sixers failed us. Drafting 6,355 centers in a row. Ben Simmons can't shoot a basketball. This is where it went south. All right, Danny, let's see what you're made of. You did a good job. But now it's time to really kick it into gear. 215-592-9494. Let's go to Doug in Pensauken. What's up, Doug?
I don't really like these moves, man. I like Scott Laughton. I was there for that Detroit game when he had the hat trick +1. I think he's a good, solid player to build around. I don't know why we had to basically start from scratch. It's frustrating because in hockey, one player can definitely help improve a team. I felt like, we've been hanging at 500. I feel like maybe one or two pieces we probably could have pushed for the playoffs. But
so you were in playoff mode this year, Doug.
Well, you're always in playoff mode. I mean, I go back to 2010 always.
I know. But
shootout.
Let me paint you a scenario though, because I disagree, but I love talking puck with you as always. So, I get it. 2010 was such an unbelievable run, and it came out of nowhere, and it was really cool. But wouldn't you rather build where you're Tampa Bay or you're Colorado, and it's not, hey, can we win a shootout on the final game of the year to sneak into the playoffs and have a miracle journey, where you're the Washington Capitals with Ovi or Sidney Crosby and the Penguins, where year in and year out you have studs who are bringing you to the top of the Eastern Conference every single year, where you know it's inevitable you're getting a cup run compared to the one magical journey?
Well, that's the thing, though, because I feel like this team has not done that successfully ever. We seem to always be behind the 8 ball when it comes to drafting players. We didn't draft Russian players in the 90s because Clark refused to do it.
And look what we're doing now.
Yeah, but it needs to happen. We need to really hit on this. And I just go back to, because after the 06-07 year, the Vengeance year, through 07-08, we signed Scott Hartnell, Briere, all these players, and they was able to turn the team around in an instant. So I hope that, they need to hit on these picks, because if they don't hit and they're not NHL ready, we're not going to be able to attract talent.
Well, they're not going to be NHL ready. It's going to take time for these kids to grow. That's why they've been pressing the whole patience thing for a while, Jonesy and Briere. These draft picks that we talk about in 2025, we're not going to see them instantly. It's one of those things where it's like Phillies baseball, where we hear about Justin Crawford, we hear about Andrew Painter as well, Aiden Miller, and then eventually they come up and you see them like Stott and Bohm, but it's not going to be a snap your fingers and then we're going to see these NHL ready kids, because it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I know, but the Sixers ruined my patience, so I can't go through it.
Now we're on to something, Doug, the patience thing with the Sixers, and thank you, Doug. I do disagree with him, the playoff push. I didn't want to see a playoff push, and I love Doug. Love Doug. Scott Laughton stinks. I'm sorry. He's a good person. He's a phenomenal human being. This culture thing, the hell, what has been good about the Flyers culture over the last X amount of years? The hell are we talking about? I'm more looking more at like the Danny Briere side of things, the Flyer side of things. Oh, Scott Laughton, I don't know what I'm going to do without Scott Laughton. The team is stinks. He's a bottom 6 forward. I've never seen an organization in my life cater to a bottom 6 forward. He's a role player. What are we doing? I never understood it. They held on to this guy for 3 deadlines because they loved him so much. He's a bottom 6 forward. I don't get it. I never understood it. Scott Laughton. I mean, the NHL has superstars around the league. We sit here with Scott Laughton. He's a good person. This is not a knock on the person. This is not a knock on the role that he plays. He has an important role. He's versatile. He can kill penalties. You can put him at center. You can play him on the wing. You can do a lot. He's good for the room. Okay? When you have a team that's already built to go win a cup, that's a good acquisition at a deadline. Ain't building no franchise around Scott Laughton. But the Flyers sure acted that way for way too damn long. Man, this guy's going to have a statue. It's going to be right next to Doug Peterson and Nick Foles. Here's Scott Laughton, everybody. Scott Laughton. It's unreal. He's a role player. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it in my life. Let's go to Matt. Yo, Matt.
What's up, Brodes?
What's up, man?
Listen, first, thank you for Flyers talk.
Yeah, no problem.
I got a lot to say because I don't ever have anybody to vent to. but so just give me a minute, okay?
Yep.
So regarding Laughton, I couldn't agree with you 100%. I couldn't wait for him to be gone. Like, he's a good guy. They did well by him. Sending him to Toronto. That's where he's from.
Yep.
That's where he lives.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Have a great time. Help the Maple Leafs. Try and get to the Cup. Fine. Awesome. I'm not. So first of all, that's first. Secondly, I wasn't on board with the Morgan Frost trade, to be honest with you.
Okay. Interesting.
I followed Morgan Frost like you wouldn't believe in the minors and juniors, and I couldn't wait for him to come up. Like, just every year, I'm like, come on, this is the year. He's got like 100 points. Come on, this is the year. And I was a huge Morgan Frost fan, so I didn't love that part of it, but I was okay with it.
I was going to say, did you understand it by the end though? Because that's a big difference, you know.
I do understand it, but more importantly, I could not. So you said about Laughton, I felt the same way about Farabee. He had one good year, and they just every year it's Farabee's year, and he just never.
You know what's funny? I felt that way about Frost, and I liked Farabee, so I was that guy. I was the guy that was waiting for Farabee to turn it around, and I thought Frost was just. Yeah. But you know what? I will say at this particular time, if I'm looking at both of them, Frost does show off that skill sometimes. That's intriguing, but I don't know if he's ever going to put it fully together. You know, it's always there, but not enough.
I understand. So my next. So and the Kuzmenko thing, I kind of wanted to keep him. Listen, when he got him, they said he can't skate well. He's not a good defender. Well, he picked off the puck at center ice the other 2 games ago, and then skated in and got a goal. Like, I wasn't expecting that to happen.
So if it was an expiring deal, though, are you saying you would have paid him to stay? Because they did get a 3rd-round pick for an expiring deal, which is pretty good.
Yeah. I understand that. But more importantly, this is where I got to say right now, I need to get rid of Sean Couturier.
I get it.
Just done.
I get it.
Like,
I get it.
He was great. He was great when he was checking Evgeny Malkin back in what was that 2012, 2011. But he hasn't been that player.
No,
I'm done. I'm done. So Laughton's going. Let's get rid of Couturier and really, really, really shake it up.
I would
look forward to the draft.
Yeah, I would love to do that, man. I just don't know if they're going to be able to effectively do it due to that contract. Because what team is going to sit there and want that? He is signed until 2030, dude. 2030.